Alabama goes on the road to Columbia and walks away with a win in a very, very big potential trap game that a lot of us really predicted as podcast media experts. You heard it here on this podcast, certain that this was a game that many people were worried about, that many, that even Alabama fans were after four straight games, very emotional game, worried about as fans. And overall, Alabama grinds it out against South Carolina. Um, and we're going to talk about that and more here on the show, talking about Alabama in the bye week, Alabama's preview LSU this Saturday, and just a lot more to unpack on this episode of the Bama Factor with Alex Taylor. So sit back, relax, enjoy the show. Well, good evening again, ladies and gentlemen, or good morning, good afternoon, good night, whenever you are watching or listening to this. You're listening to the Bama Factor with Alex Taylor. As always, I am your host, Alex Taylor, and man, what a lot to dive into. And first off, I've missed everyone this past week. I decided not to do a show last week because of the bye week. I needed a little bit of a break as well. Um, Took a little bit of time to kind of relax and prepare for this week, and also basketball season, having to prepare some stuff for the Instagram page and Twitter, and how I'm going to do shows uh, along with the basketball season as well. So really gave me some time to kind of unwind and rest some and just really enjoy some football this past weekend and this past week. But we are back, and we are looking forward to a great show here. So first and foremost, starting it out, Alabama goes on the road, South Carolina, 2 Saturdays ago, um, and really grinds out a win. 29-22 the final. Just some team stats to go over here. South Carolina had the advantage in first downs, 18-17. Tied, very efficient on third down, 8 of 16 to 6 of 17 for the Gamecocks. Total yards, South Carolina with the edge, 333 to 325. Alabama 253 passing, only 72 on the ground. We're going to talk a little bit more about that as well. Time of possession, South Carolina actually with the edge in the game, 32-38 to 27-22. The first time that Alabama has not held the ball longer than an opponent since the opening Florida State. Just a couple individual stats here for Crimson Tide. Simpson, not one of his better games this season, but did what it took to win. 24 43 for 253, 2 touchdowns. Still hasn't thrown an interception. I mean, he's thrown one this season. I mean, in this game. Jam Miller, your leader on the ground, 10 for 26. And again, only 23 carries for 72 yards, and 23 of those yards coming from a wide receiver, Germie Bernard. But in the passing game, in the receiving game, Daniel Hill, your leading receiver out of the backfield, 4 catches for 76 yards. Ryan Williams, 7 for 72. Germie Bernard, 5 for 51. Josh Wavis, 3 of 16. Rico Scott, 2 for 12. Couple fumbles in this game, one from Ty Simpson, another one from Jalen Mbakwe. But on the defensive side, Bray Hubbard having a big day, 8 total tackles, 2 solo. Justin Jefferson having a really good day, 7 total tackles, 5 solo, 1.5 tackles for a loss and a sack. Johanse Pierre still having a great day. Dijon Lee Jr. having a good day. Alabama tallying 3 sacks and 7 tackles for a loss total. And Deshaun Jones finishing the day with his first career pick 6 for the Tide and for his career in general. So overall, Alabama just, again, grinds it out against South Carolina improving to 7-1 and dropping the Gamecocks to 3-5 at time. And I want to talk a little bit about just this game in general from a fan's perspective. And this was a game that I knew all week long. Honestly, I didn't have a really good feeling about. I didn't necessarily think we'd play bad. I just knew of the emotional games that we have had since really the Georgia game. You go on the road to Georgia, you win an emotional game there, then you come back and you get a little revenge. Vanderbilt, emotional game. You have to go on the road against an undefeated Missouri team at the time with the nation's leading rusher. Emotional game. Then you come back and you have to play third Saturday in October against Tennessee, a team you lost to. Emotional game. And after all that, you've got to continue, and you keep in mind those 4 games were all against opponents. South Carolina was the first unranked opponent they had played since Wisconsin. And it's just very difficult to maintain that edge. Now, I think Alabama did, and they did a fantastic job of it. But overall, I will say one thing about this game. Alabama 100%, this is a culture win. I think you're seeing Kalen DeBoer's imprint on the program now. Seeing how he's getting these guys to play him, the other fans. I'm going to be absolutely honest here. I don't think last year's team pulls out that win against South Carolina. I don't think they do. I don't think they have the culture needed or like the culture is this year at all. I absolutely do not think that one bit. This was 100% a culture win. These guys really dug deep. The offense for the most part did not play well. The running game was shut down for the most part. Ty was off on some of his throws. He missed some wide open throws. Not really accustomed to him really seeing that from him at all, hardly. But just to see this team fight back, and I mean, be down 22-14 with less than 10 to go in the fourth quarter, momentum all on the side of South Carolina, looking like an upset, and this team really rallied around each other when adversity hit, and just a staunch drive from Ty Simpson to hit Germie Bernard for a touchdown, 2-point conversion, gutsy call to tie the game by Grubb, great execution by Ty and Josh Wavis, and then just the defense. It was the defense's ability to get the ball back, and Deontay Lawson and Tim Keenan, really coming up big, and then again just the gutsy call on third down to put Germie in the Wildcat and not even settle for the field goal, but to really go for the throat and really go for that final touchdown. And then again the defense held South Carolina at the end and forced a sack and forced time to run off the clock. But again, this is just that gut check win, and sometimes you need that after 4 games of really games that you've controlled for the most part. Been emotional games, but you've controlled the games for the most part. And you need those games of where you have to grind it out and where you have to, maybe you don't play your best, but you win, and you can still learn from that. I think this team has, and I think that they will. And I will say the bye week came at such a good for this team because, we got guys that are a little bit dinged up. Again, like I said, ever since the FSU game, it's been a complete 180 for all in that game. And it has to continue. And again, improving each week, going 1-0 each week, having that mentality each week. And it's not getting any, we're going to talk about that just a little bit later. But overall, again, just this team's ability to just really get after it and just how they play for each other. They've been playing for each other. They've been playing for the fans. They've been playing for the coaches. And they don't care about what anybody else is doing. They don't care about what any other team is doing. They care about what they're doing. And that's what I love to see from the team, really more than anything. So I just have to say a huge hats off to just the entire team, especially the leadership and the captains. I mean, if you just look, it was really three of our captains that were making plays there at the end of that game. You know, Simpson, Lawson, Keenan, um, just absolutely incredible for um, the culture for this team for this season for where we're trying to go. And but another player that really deserves a lot more recognition than he gets, and I know he gets some, but I think he deserves even more. Germie Bernard, just to talk about him a little bit, just the bright spot that he has been this season for the Crimson Tide, and just just seeing first and foremost when he decided to come back and he decided to say I'm going to stay one more year, and really at the end of the year last year he really started to come on and really started to be Alabama's assistant receiver from really, I would say, the Tennessee game. Really emerged, really became a good receiver. This season, really the kind of the lone bright spot in the loss to Florida State, and then just really kind of took over after such a versatile player. He's been used as kind of that gadget player, kind of the wildcat guy. He can run. They've let him throw. They're trying to get him to throw, I know, a little bit more. High school quarterback. But um, but I mean, Germie on the year, leading the team with 38 catches, 526 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He's the leader in all of those categories. And, you may look at those numbers and say he's only got 526 yards, but that's because Ty Simpson's done a great job of spreading the ball around. You look at Ryan Williams, he has 33 catches. Isaiah Horton has 22. Lancia Brooks with 16. Josh Wavis with 20. Kevin Riley with 16. Rico Scott with 10. Jam Miller with 12. So you've got a lot of guys who have really been pass catchers. That's why everybody eats Alabama. But Germie Bernard's just impact and but the even bigger impact that he provides for this team is on the spiritual side, and that through his faith in Christ, and that's something that I just really admire. And if you kept up with it, during the bye week, Germie Bernard hosted audience of one, a night of worship on campus in the north end zone at Bryant Denny Stadium, and over 2,000 students showed up, and Ty Simpson, Isaiah Horton, Tim Keenan, Wilkin Formby, obviously Germie, and a few other players were in attendance to share their testimonies, and just about what the Lord's really using this team to do, and really what He's been doing through this team, the last year. And Germie being at the forefront of this, he said this was his dream, this was his vision to bring this here. Just seeing his journey all the way from Michigan State to Washington to Alabama, and just the type of player he is. I mean, like, he is our catalyst, and he is definitely one of our impact players, and he's the guy who, he's reliable. You can count on him. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes. Just he's consistent. He's that same player each and every game. He knows who to give the glory to. And again, he's that leader. Unc is what the guys call him. He's one of the older guys, but again, he's that constant leader, and what Alabama needs. And, again, culture, what won that South Carolina game. Germie Bernard has been a big part of the culture this year. So again, Germie, if you hear this, you see this, just know that this Alabama fan appreciates everything that you do for the team, and just your contribution, not only as a player, but just as a man and as a Christian and as a fellow brother in Christ. I pray the Lord just continues to richly bless you, and He guides your steps all the way through. I know your NFL career and whatever the Lord will have for you next. But again, just um, wonderful athlete and a wonderful person, Bernard. Now, kind of getting into a little more about our matchup Saturday. This matchup is going to look a little bit different. Alabama LSU, obviously, it's very well known annual matchup, which this is the last year that it's really going to be each and every year due to the new SEC 9-game conference schedule. Looks like, and obviously finding out earlier in the year that LSU will not be one of Alabama's 3 permanent opponents. The 3 permanent opponents are Tennessee, Auburn, and Mississippi State. So LSU will not be a annual recurring game for Crimson Tide. But this game is going to look a little bit different than we thought because 2 weeks ago, LSU fired Brian Kelly. Um, Came as a shock to some people, but if you remember in my preseason show when we were previewing really the whole SEC, um, I said at the beginning of the season that Brian Kelly was one of the coaches on the hot seat, and a lot of people tended to really disagree with my take and say, "Oh, I don't really think he's on the hot seat. He's winning enough games, but not competing for SEC titles, not getting to the playoff, losing games you're really not supposed to, getting blown out in big time games." He just wasn't living up to the LSU standard, and I really knew after what Texas A&M did, and this is no disrespect to Texas A&M, they're a great football team. Obviously, they're top in the conference right now, but really seeing what they did, kind of representative of what we did in Tiger Stadium a year ago, I just knew that was probably the last straw for Kelly. And you're seeing a lot of former players, a lot of current players, just really, you can see that Kelly never had the locker room, that at this point, Kelly was never the man for the job. When they hired him, I said, he'll be gone in 3 to 4 years. Sure enough, we're on year 4. He's gone. He didn't season. And, the SEC is a tough place, and it's hard to win in the SEC. And, frankly, I feel like some of the Alabama fans earlier this year thought that DeBoer was going to be the next one in that line, saying, you can't win in the SEC. It's a hard place. It's not for everybody. And a lot of Alabama fans were willing to discount our own coach. But the thing is that good coaches find ways to win, and they don't just talk about it. Brian Kelly talked a lot, and he always said, close, we've got to fix this. But he never did. And I feel like a lot of it has to do, I don't want to attack his character. I've heard plenty of stories about his character, and I'll let that speak for itself. But as far as I just don't think he was ever built to lead LSU. I don't ever think he had the locker room to think that Pulse higher. And look at the differences even between came from at Notre Dame. LSU, Notre Dame's had more success since Kelly left. So, really kind of seeing that, potentially what was holding Notre Dame back. But overall, the Brian Kelly era does come to an right before their off week as well. Frank Wilson will be the interim head coach and will coach his first collegiate game as a head coach against Alabama on the road. And, this is a tricky game, and I'm going to save that for my prediction. But the Brian Kelly era officially over at LSU. So now Alabama starts the season on the road, Florida State. Very lackluster, disappointing. We were all watching. Fans calling for DeBoer's job, questioning the effort of players, the culture, buy-in. What did we do in the offseason? This is how we come out. And then Alabama really bounces back against. People are like, yeah, but it's 2 unranked teams. We want to see what they really do. Then they go on the road to Georgia and start to prove something. They come back and beat Vanderbilt. Then they go and grind it out against Missouri. Then they beat Tennessee. Then they grind this. Then they grind it out against South Carolina. So again, these teams are finding ways to. They're buying into each other. They're going 1-0. They've responded. All you want to see as a fan. But now you reach what we always call that August, September, October, or November's. Now you see going to reach status. You can dominate all those months. We've seen Miami do it for years. Really dominate the August and Septembers and the Octobers. Coming to the November, Miami's one of the worst teams at closing out season. Seeing it firsthand right now, losing 2 out of their last 3. So not everybody's built for November. This is where it separates itself. And the gauntlet doesn't get any easier. Alabama's already been through it really since Georgia, Vanderbilt, Missouri, Tennessee, South Carolina. It doesn't get any easier. Now you have an LSU. You have Oklahoma next week, a very good football team. And you, of course, you have Eastern Illinois. You can't overlook anyone, but it's Eastern Illinois. You got to go on the road to Auburn. The gauntlet doesn't get any easier in the SEC. Even your even the bottom tier teams still beat anybody on any given Saturday. And again, but this gauntlet also prepares you. It tests you for battle, for knowing what you will face potentially in the playoff. And that's the good thing about playing in the best conference in the SEC and in the toughest conferences, because every Saturday you're getting the country's absolute best, and some of the best players in the nation are at these. Again, even at bottom tier, even at the lowest point of the SEC, even if those bottom 3 or 4 schools, you're still getting elite talent that you're playing against. It may not be collectively, but you're still playing against some pretty elite players. Every SEC team's got those that first round talent that have that All American status, that some awards attached to their name, have some dynamic stats and some dynamic ability. Um, and each week you're getting battle tested. And Alabama is battle tested to this point. Again, playing Georgia, playing Vanderbilt, Missouri, Tennessee, and even playing Florida State, playing somebody out of conference. Just you only get better, and it only builds you each week. So again, this gauntlet in November is extremely tough, and it starts this Saturday with LSU. So Alabama has to just continue playing their game. And we're going to see how they get through this gauntlet in November as well. So now, as we move into fifth segment, right before our preview and prediction, got asked this a lot in the bye week, and I've really been kind of thinking about how I want to address this. But just areas where Alabama needs to improve, and where I hope that they did improve through the bye week. And first and foremost, I think we need to address the elephant in the room. No pun intended. The run game offensively. Safe to say, Alabama's run game this year has been consistent, to say the least. It's been lacking any explosive runs, any big plays. And you get into the debate of whether do you blame the offensive line, do you blame the backs for not hitting holes, do you play calling, alignment, personnel, and it can be a mixture of all things. But I think this season, not going to make any excuses. This season, I think not having Jam at full strength has been a factor in that. Jam, he misses the first 3 games of the season, comes back against Georgia's kind of limited. He does make some good plays. Ran like a wild man against Vanderbilt. Gets hurt the following week against Missouri. Kind of comes back not 100% against Tennessee, not really 100% South Carolina. So maybe this week gives him an opportunity for that. But Kevin Riley has been emerging. And Richard Young's kind of disappeared on us here and there, kind of lost in the rotation. But someone that I will say about in the run game, and where I see kind of improvement coming, and I think really positive sign for Gauntlet that we're about to go through, is the emergence of Daniel Hill. And Daniel Hill wasn't really fully healthy to start the season either, but now he's really fully healthy, and we really kind of saw that in the Missouri game. Made a big time touchdown catch on that drive. Tennessee game really came alive, as a threat out of the backfield. Just a hard running back, that 6'2", 6'3", 245 pounds. And just hard to tackle, and can just really hit the hole extremely well. And I think that's a positive sign. Having someone that, yeah, he's not going to be that home run hitter, but he's going to be that guy who's going to get you the tough yards, and he's tough to tackle. And, that's going to be extremely key um, and vital to this Alabama ground game if they want to get. And part of it I think is the offensive line. I think that you have to find that those five guys who can really consistently block, who have the physicality to move the line of scrimmage. And I really think that those five are Proctor, Cam Dewberry, Parker Brailsford, Jaden Roberts, and Michael Carroll, if you want my honest opinion. I think those are your best run blocking guys, especially Roberts and Carroll on that right side. I think that's probably going to be your absolute best um, chance for success is to run off the right side. And something that else I really want to see kind of go into play calling now is Ryan Grubb doesn't really. The one pet peeve I have about him is that he's not calling a lot of outside zones. He's not calling a lot of outside traps or just, running to the outside, getting to the corners. We can get to the corners. We have backs who can get to the corners. And when we run wide, we have positive yards. But I don't know if he's just trying to establish it in the middle to gain confidence for the offensive line, to gain confidence for the backs. But also, I will say at times this year that the holes have been there and Jam just hasn't been hitting them. And, then, Hill comes in and he hits them. Kevin Riley, he comes in, he hits them. It's almost like plays take too long to develop, or offensive linemen are late on their blocks, or they're late on their pulls, and but overall, if we can get the run game established, one of the biggest areas of improvement that we need, and I think these guys have been up to the challenge. I think that Kalen DeBoer talked about it, Ryan Grubb talked about these guys wanting to establish the run and really have success this game against LSU. This is where you do it. This is where you come out and make a statement and say, hey, we can run the ball. We're going to run the ball. Again, the bye week coming at a good time to get those guys help. Your offensive line fully help. Get your tailbacks full. Get them a week of rest. Let them get rejuvenated. And really from that point, I just think it's just got to come down to consistency, play calling, consistency, and just really seeing which tailback really wants it. Because again, the passing game is there, the intermediate, the short game, and but we have to establish the run forward, especially against a team like Oklahoma, because Oklahoma has a very good defensive front, and you've got to be able to establish it. Same thing against Auburn. Auburn has a very good defense. Get further into the postseason, you have to really, really get to that point. So now as we move into our last segment, Alabama versus LSU, Saturday night, 6:30 p.m. Central Time, SEC on ABC, November 8th, 2025, Bryant-Denny Stadium. Alabama welcomes in, shockingly, the unranked LSU Tigers. The last time that the Alabama Crimson Tide welcomed an unranked Tigers team into Bryant-Denny was 2021, with only 55 scholarship players. And I was at that game, and a cardiac game it was, 20-14 slugfest from the time. Not the best and cleanest game, but Alabama grinded that game out for sure. So 7-1 Alabama against 5-3 LSU. LSU obviously again firing Brian Kelly, interim head coach Frank Wilson, Garrett Nussmeier's status unknown for right now in this game, but I want to say one very critical and important thing. I'm looking at the line here. It started at 11.5. It's moving to 9.5 Alabama. Telling me Vegas is trying to get people to take LSU. Because line always moves. Started at 11.5, and it says 10.5 here, but other places say 11.5, and it's moved 1.2 points depending on what you're searching. This is a little bit of a tricky game as well for Alabama, because now you've got a team that you think, hey, they don't have their head coach anymore. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe that was the reason they weren't really buying in, and you kind of saw that from the player body language. You kind of saw that from the sideline. Nobody really ever respected Kelly. At least this team didn't. and you're hearing it from former players about, wasn't a good human being, he wasn't a good coach, never had respect for him. But Frank Wilson, they seem like they're really behind, and that this coach is exactly what they're looking for, at least for right now in the interim. So these guys are going to play well for him. These guys are going to be motivated for him. And again, your shot at the playoffs is all but out the door, um, barring just an utter collapse by the top, 25 teams, which is not going to happen. But you have nothing to lose, and I'm a big, I'm a big, huge like movie person. I can quote almost every movie I watch. But a big series that I love is all the Rocky Balboa films, and the movie Creed, or Creed 2, where he fights Ivan Drago's son. Um, Rocky didn't want Adonis to fight Creed's son, because he said the man, he looked at Adonis and said, "You have everything to lose. He's got nothing to lose. When a man doesn't have anything to lose, he's dangerous." LSU doesn't have anything to lose in this game. Alabama has something to lose. Alabama obviously projected tomorrow night in the first CFP rankings to be around, that 3 to 4 spot. Could potentially, I could see, be as high as 3, maybe be as low as 5. But I think that they'll end up at number 4. At least that's where they are in the AP poll right now. But, LSU can play spoiler here and, really kind of derail Alabama's season with the Gauntlet coming in November. So again, this is a little bit of a tricky game for the Tide. And I know that Alabama's not going to underestimate them because, at the end of the day, LSU still has very good players. I mean, start on offense. Regardless of who the quarterback is, Garrett Nussmeier, if it's obviously Michael Van Buren, both of those highly touted quarterbacks. Van Buren, obviously a former 5-star. Running backs, Caleb Durham. They've got Harlem Berry. You look at the wide receiver position, is probably their best position on the field. You've got a guy in the transfer from Oklahoma in Nick Anderson. You have Aaron Anderson, former Alabama player, with great speed. You have Barry and Brown. You've got a huge tight end. Traylon Green, I think is his name. LSU fans don't quote me on that. But just huge problem in the matchup game for any opposing defense as well. And their one Achilles heel is their offensive line. Obviously, we saw Texas A&M kind of really handle that offensive line, starting a couple freshmen on the line, especially the left side. And still on the defense, they still have, I think one of the better corners in the game currently. They've got some really good talent on the front. Obviously, Whit Weeks, Jack Pyburn, Whit Weeks' brother. Harold Perkins is obviously still a great athlete. LSU still has athletes. LSU still has talent. And, they've been in every loss that they had this year. It's been, you wonder, a couple plays away here and there against Vanderbilt, couple plays away against Texas A&M not having the game turn in their favor. But again, you've also seen in the losses how they've been exposed game currently. Obviously, quarterback edge goes to Ty Simpson in this game. Caden Durham, 79 carries for 378 this season, 2 touchdowns. Not really the season that we were expecting. Aaron Anderson, their leading receiver, for 29 catches, 382, still hasn't caught a touchdown this year. Then, you go over to the other side of the ball. Harold Perkins Jr., their sack leader with only 2. Harold Perkins Jr., this is a guy that we're talking about, in his freshman season in 2023, had 5.5 sacks and was just absolutely just wreaking havoc. Last year, he didn't record a sack, and this year he's only got 2, and just kind of seeing his career kind of take this. And was that coaching, with defensive alignment? We don't. But still, Harold Perkins, great player and just great athlete. And you just give me 1 second. I'm actually gonna look. I just want to see. And Harlem, obviously Harlem Berry, 46 carries for 225 this year as well. Um, Trey Desgreen, 6'7", 240-pound tight end. 21 catches, 264 yards, 4 touchdowns. Used a lot in the red. That's a matchup problem, and they are going to target him. And he's very good in open. One of those bigger tight ends has some really good speed. And again, just Xavion Thomas, can't discount him. Very good guy as well. 20 catches for 7. Barry and Brown, 36 catches for 306. Only the 1 touchdown, but really makes his presence felt. And again, Nick Anderson hasn't been that big of a contributor this year, but obviously is still a guy who can come in. 6'4", 208. And then of course you have really at linebacker too. You've got Keys at linebacker, sophomore playing very well season. Whit Weeks with the potential to be back. But one of the guys, Mansour Delaney, probably one of the best corners in the game. He's got 7 passes defended this year, 1 interception. Not a lot of people throw to his side. You can imagine that he's going to be matched up against Ryan, Isaiah. So again, this LSU team very talented across the board. Now, offensively speaking, averaging 25.8 a game. Currently only 38% on third down. Not a very good offensive third down team as far as concerned. But then when you really look on the defensive side of the ball, their turnover ratio 4 currently. It's just have 52 penalties this year, out 56 yards in penalties a game. So heavily penalized team. They've turned the ball over some this year. They're averaging 355 yards a game. The rushing offense also dead last in the conference. 0.8 yards a carry, which I can't really. Game is not far behind as well, but it's still to the point where you get to see that even though they've struggled this year, still a talented team. Still won games. So again, this is a team that I believe is going to play inspired and that Alabama cannot overlook. But I think really coming down to it, Saturday night, you're going to have a game where, again, LSU is still going to be without a head coach, coming off a bye week. Again, do I think they play inspired? Yes. Do I think it could be closer than people really want it to be? Yes. But another thing is, I think this Alabama team coming off of a close win in South Carolina and getting a bye week as well is what. And I think when you see this, I think you need to take the opportunity to say LSU is in wounded duck type of mode. They're in that wounded duck mode, and we have the opportunity to really put them out of their fear. Not let them get an edge, not let them come in and overtake Tuscaloosa. You have the opportunity to go out there and make a statement of establishing that run, because if there's one Achilles heel of LSU's defense, it's their run game. Seen it the last 2 years that they played Alabama. Jalen Milroe gave them fits in the run game. The running backs did as well. So again, you've got that upper hand on that side. LSU's hasn't been the best tackling team outside of Tennessee. I think they're one of the worst in the conference. Statistically speaking, I'm not saying that from opinion. But I think with the trio of wide receivers Alabama has, and you get Latsier Brooks back, have an impact tight end like Josh Wavis, you have the ability to drain the clock like Alabama does and control that time of possession. the uncertainty at LSU's quarterback position. I think Alabama's preparing for both. I think, again, LSU's going to play with a team, or like a team, excuse me, with nothing to lose, because they are. But also, Alabama's going to play, they don't have anything to lose, because that's the way they play since Florida State. And I've gone really kind of back and forth on my score prediction for this. And this can be a very ugly game like 2021 was. Or this could be something where Alabama just comes out and just really doesn't even really give this game a chance to ever be close. I think the crowd is going to play a factor. I said it against Tennessee. Don't want to speak overconfident. But if the game is close, I can see Alabama 24-17 type game, a 24-21 type game. But if Alabama establishes the run, Ty Simpson gets back to what he's doing. He's going to go up against a pretty good secondary against LSU. Their front's going to present some problems. Again, they have playmakers on offense. Alabama's cannot get beat. They can't give up any explosive plays. They can't get really beat on the deep ball. But if Alabama can control what they can control in this game and really get off to a good start and maintain that pressure, create some turnovers, as Garrett Nussmeier has been very prone to this year and last year, I think Alabama could walk away comfortably in this game, like a 38-14, a 38-17, maybe a late score by LSU, a 38-24 type game. So Alabama just needs to, one, keep taking care of the ball, forcing turnovers like they have been, and again, just playing for each other, going 1-0 each week. Again, I will be in attendance this Saturday. I'm looking forward to it. Another game under the lights in Tuscaloosa. Very excited about it. And again, I think Alabama starts their gauntlet off, and I think they can start off in a huge way. But again, they can't underestimate LSU Tiger team. Still going to be a war. Alabama LSU always is. It's always one of the best games of the year. And I think we're in for potentially another classic. So Alabama's got to bring it. I know they are, because LSU is going to bring it as well. And we're going to see what happens. But guys, thank you for joining tonight. Went a little bit longer than usual, but that's okay. Had a lot to cover from the bye week. But guys, thank you for tuning in each and every week. You guys are what really makes this show possible and what keeps this show going each week. Be sure to follow me below Instagram, X, and TikTok at the.bama.factor. Especially on Instagram, we're getting close to 28,000 followers, trying to reach that 30K gold number by the end of the year. We are in the month of November, so we are close, folks. Be sure to follow me on Spotify. Be sure also, if you would not mind, to like and subscribe on YouTube as well. Comment, share, follow the Bama Factor with Alex Taylor on YouTube. We're really trying to grow that YouTube page, really trying to expand more also into the basketball arena of coverage. So your support, guys, means everything. Every view, every like, every comment, every subscription means everything at getting more views and just expanding to a larger audience in the YouTube algorithm as well. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in again. Hope you guys have a great week. Hope you guys get YouTube TV figured out. I know it affected me. So if they don't have it figured out by this Saturday, even though I will be at the game, I'm switching to Hulu. But I hope everybody gets a chance to watch the game, of course. Hope everyone has a great week. Good night, and God bless, and Roll Tide.